learners. I am Dr. Tejasha Kalita, the Assistant Professor, Discipline of Philosophy of Kektehallik State Open University. Today, I am going to discuss about the unit Feminism. It is the unit 10 of Module 8. Now, this particular unit Feminism has been distributed into 3 particular videos. Where first video will consist of introduction. In the second video, we will discuss about the development of feminism and the characteristics of feminism. And in the third video, we'll discuss about the liberal and radical feminism. Along with that, we'll also discuss about the criticisms of feminism. So today in this video, we'll discuss about the introduction of the concept feminism. Now, whenever we are saying about feminism, we'll have to know that feminism is a movement that fundamentally challenges the patriarchal and male-dominated structure of society. It advocates for the rights, liberation and independence of women worldwide, aiming to dismantle gender-based inequalities and establish a more just and equitable world. While it is difficult to describe feminism in a very single sentence, it can be broadly defined, or it can be broadly understood as the radical notion that women are also human beings. That means, according to feminism, all the women are equally human as the man. Over time, the perspectives and approaches within feminism have evolved significantly, reflecting the diverse cultures, social and political contexts. John Sharvat, in his book Feminism, which was published in the year 1982, has tried to define feminism as the belief that man and women are equal. This fundamental principle asserts that women should enjoy the same rights, opportunities and privileges as men in all spheres of life used to enjoy. Similarly, the Oxford Reference Dictionary defines feminism as a movement or theory supporting women's rights based on the principles of equality between the sexes. The definition of feminism, this very particular definition of feminism, underscores the idea that feminism is not merely a theoretical framework but also an active movement working towards tangible social change. One of the very famous Indian feminist thinkers, Kamala Bhasin, and another Knight Said Khan, in their book Feminism, has tried to describe the very concept of feminism. According to them, feminism as a process of raising awareness among both man and women regarding the exploitation of women in various aspects of life, including society, family and workplace. Okay. Now, so far as feminism is concerned, you can also say that this particular perspective, which has been given by Kamala Bhasin and Said Khan, has a particular perspective. This perspective mainly highlights feminism as an evolving discourse that seeks to educate people about systematic discrimination and empower individuals to challenge and overcome these inequalities. Women have historically faced discrimination in multiple forms, such as radical access to education, limited career opportunities, wage disparities and societal expectation that confine them to traditional roles. Feminism aims to dismantle these particular barriers and try to create a more inclusive society where gender does not determine one's worth or potential. Now, whenever we are saying about feminism, another point which must have to be mentioned here is that the term feminist does not exclusively refer to female thinkers or activists. Anyone, regardless of gender, who advocates for women's rights, freedom and independence is considered to be a feminist. Okay, so the term feminist is a gender neutral term and it has nothing to do with female thinkers. Okay, now this inclusive definition recognizes that gender equality is not just a woman's issue but a societal one that requires the participation and support of all individuals. Many male philosophers, writers and activists have significantly contributed to feminist discourse and the broader struggle for gender equality. Notable male feminists include John Stuart Mill, who wrote The Subjection of Woman and has tried to advocate for women's rights. Another philosopher, his name is Frederick Douglas. He is an abolitionist, and he has tried to say that he has also tried to say in favor of gender equality. These contributions demonstrate that feminism is not about opposing men but also challenging oppressive structures that disadvantage women and in many cases also limit men's freedoms by enforcing rigid gender roles. Now, so far as the term feminism is concerned, it has developed through different waves, each addressing specific concern and broadening the movement's scope. The first wave focused on the legal rights, particularly women's suffrage. The second wave addresses issues such as reproductive rights, workplace discrimination, and domestic violence. The third wave introduces more intersectional perspectives, emphasizing the experiences of women of different races, classes, and sexual orientations. Today, feminism continues to evolve, adapting to contemporary challenges such as digital misogyny, gender-based violence, and workplace inequality. In essence, it can also be said that so far as feminism is concerned, it is a movement that seeks to achieve equality and justice for women, ensuring that they have the same opportunities and freedoms as men. By advocating for women's rights and challenging societal norms that perpetuate discrimination, feminism strives to create a more just and equitable world for all individuals, regardless of gender. Now, if we see the origin of feminism, we'll find that so far as the whole movement of feminism is concerned, it has become a crucial area of discourse in modern social and philosophical studies. Many social theorists' view on feminism says that, or many social theorists has tried to describe feminism as a movement against male-dominated structures that have historically suppressed women's social, political, and economic rights. However, identifying a singular point of origin of feminism is very difficult, as feminist ideas have emerged in different cultures and time periods. Feminism is not a monolithic movement but rather an evolving discourse that has adapted to different historical and cultural contexts. So you can say that so far as the term feminism is concerned or the feminist movement is concerned, various different cultures or cultures of different society and various conditions of women in different society has played a very important role in the growth of feminism. Now, whenever we'll discuss about the early feminist thought, we'll have to say that although historical records do not provide a definite origin of feminism, traces of feminist ideas can be found in ancient civilizations such as Greece and China. However, formal documentation of this particular early feminist ideologies remains very scarce, and we'll hardly find any early documentation in this regard. Many early social societies were deeply patriarchal. In fact, in today's world also we'll find many societies which are too patriarchal in nature. So, many early societies where we found a deep patriarchal background was there, they have tried to limit the women's roles primarily to domestic and reproductive function. Okay, so women's role has been limited to this particular jobs only, domestic and reproductive functions. Despite these constraints, some women defied societal norms and advocated for gender equality in various ways. One of the earliest documented feminist work is the Book of the City of Ladies, which was written in 1405 by Christine de Pisan. Pisan was an Italian-French medieval author who is often regarded as one of the first feminist writers. In her book, she tries to highlight the contributions of women throughout history and addresses key feminist issues such as women's education and their ability to participate in the intellectual and political life. She further argued that women possesses the same intellectual and moral capacities as men and deserve the same opportunities for education and self-expression. Pisan's work laid the foundation for modern feminist thoughts by emphasizing the intellectual and social capabilities of women. Now, if we'll discuss about the 18th century feminism, we'll find that the 18th century saw the emergence of more structured feminist ideas particularly influenced by the Enlightenment, which promoted ideas of equality, individual rights, and rational thought. A significant milestone in feminist thought during this period was Mary Wollstonecraft's And Vindication of Rights of Women, which was written in 1792. Wollstonecraft strongly emphasized the importance of women's education, arguing that knowledge would enable them to contribute meaningfully to society. She further challenged the prevailing notion that women were inherently inferior to men and contended that their apparent inferiority was as a result of limited access to education and social opportunities. Wollstonecraft's arguments were revolutionary for her time, as they provided a philosophical justification for women's rights. She believed that women should be regarded as rational beings capable of independent thought and decision making. She also advocated for women's political participation, asserting that they should have the right to vote and engage in public affairs. Her work significantly influenced later feminist thinkers and played a crucial role in shaping the discourse of gender equality. Now we'll discuss about the 19th century feminism. 19th century witnessed further development of feminist thought and activism. One of the most influential feminist work of this period was Women in the 19th Century, written by Margaret Fuller in the year 1845. Fuller's book analyzed the status and treatment of women in society, arguing for the intellectual and social liberation. Fuller further tried to maintain that women should have the same educational and professional opportunities as men, as well as the freedom to define their own identities and aspirations. Fuller's work contributed to the growing feminist movement in the United States and inspired many women to advocate for gender equality. In 1849, J.S. Mill and Harriet Taylor co-authored a book entitled The Subjection of Women. This particular book tried to discuss about women's right in social, economic, and political sphere. In this particular book, Mill and Taylor has tried to argue that women should be granted both legal and political rights to ensure their full participation in society. They contended that women's subordination was not a natural condition but rather a consequence of historical oppression and restrictive social norms. Now, their work helped to advance feminist thought and provided a strong philosophical foundation for women's rights movement. In the 19th century, it is also marked that the beginning of women's suffrage movement, often referred to as first wave feminism. Now, when we are saying about first wave feminism, we'll have to say that it has started in the year 19th century. The movement focused primarily on securing women's right to vote, recognizing that political participation was essential for broader gender equality. Women's activists began in this perspective by organizing various campaigns, protests, and petitions to demand suffrage rights. Now, this struggle for women's suffrage was met with significant resistance, as many political and social institutions were deeply entrenched in patriarchal values. So, actually, it was very difficult for those particular institutions to accept or follow the demands or the petitions that has been given by various feminist institutions or various feminist movements. Now, if we'll discuss about the women's suffrage movement, we'll have to say that despite the challenges, the women's suffrage movement gained a momentum and achieved significant victories. The first major success of the movement came in the year 1893, when New Zealand became the first country to grant women the right to vote. It is very difficult to accept in the present society that before 1893, women were not allowed to cast their vote in any part of the globe. Only after 1983 it has come into force, and first initiative has been taken by New Zealand. Now, this particular landmark achievement set precedent for other nations to follow. Australia granted women the right to vote in the year 1903. Finland in the year 1906, Norway in 1913, and Iceland in the year 1915. In 1917, several countries, including Canada, Germany, and Poland, tried to enfranchise women, allowing them to participate in election and political decision making. In Britain, women were granted limited voting rights in the year 1918, with full voting rights followers in 1928. The United States passed the 19th Amendment in 1920, securing women's right to vote and making a significant milestone in the feminist movement. The suffrage movement was instrumental in laying the groundwork for subsequent waves of feminism. Women's successful fight for political rights demonstrated their ability to mobilize and advocate for systematic change. It also challenged deeply ingrained gender norms and paved the way for further discussion on social, economic, and reproductive rights. From the above discussion, it can be said that feminism has evolved over centuries, adapting to different historical and cultural contexts, while its origins are difficult to pinpoint. Feminist ideas have been present in various societies throughout history, from Christian de Pichon's medieval writings to many Wollstonecraft's Enlightened era arguments, and from Margaret Fuller's 19th century advocacy to women's suffrage movement. Feminism has been a continuous struggle for gender equality. The success of the suffrage movement was a turning point in the feminist struggle, providing that collective action could lead to tangible societal change. As feminism continues to evolve, it remains a crucial area of discourse in modern social and philosophical studies, addressing contemporary issues such as workplace equality, reproductive rights, and gender-based violence. Now, if we see the transition to second wave feminism, we'll find that the fight for women's rights has undergone several phases, each addressing different aspects of gender equality. While first wave feminism primarily focused on legal and political rights, particularly women's suffrage, many feminist thinkers soon realized that securing the rights to vote was only one step towards the gender equality. Despite suffrage victories in the various countries, deep-rooted societal inequalities persisted, affecting women's role in the workplace, family, and broader society. As a result, a new phase of feminism, second wave feminism, emerged in the mid-20th century. Here, unlike its predecessors, that means unlike the first wave movement, this particular movement tried to extend it beyond political enrichment and sought to address systematic gender-based discrimination in workplace inequality, reproductive rights, and societal expectation regarding gender roles in family structure. So far as second wave feminism is concerned, we'll find that it is begun in the year 1960 and continued in the late 1980s, marked as a revolutionary shift in feminist thought and activism. It is also often found to be associated with the radical feminism because it challenged the very foundation of social institutions that perpetuated gender inequality. Feminists of this particular era argued that gender discrimination was not merely a legal issue but was deeply embedded in cultural norms, economic systems, and institutional structures. They contended that merely granting legal and political rights would not be sufficient to dismantle the systematic oppression faced by women. Instead, structural changes in society were deemed necessary to achieve true gender equality. A central idea within second wave feminism was that gender roles were socially constructed rather than biologically determined. This perspective allows feminists to critique traditional notion of femininity and masculinity, advocating for greater freedom in the roles that individuals could assume in society. The movement also confronted issues such as domestic violence, sexual harassment, reproductive rights, and arguing that these were not private matters but political issues requiring societal and legislative intervention. Now, so far as this second wave feminism is concerned, we can mention some of the figures which can be regarded to be the key thinkers of this particular thought. Several key thinkers and writers played a crucial role in shaping second wave feminism. Their works provided intellectual and ideological foundation for feminist activism and helps to challenge the traditional narratives surrounding gender roles and women's societal status. In this regard, we can name Virginia Woolf. She has written is the literary critique of patriarchy. Although Virginia Woolf was primarily associated with early feminist literature, her ideas were highly influential for second wave feminism. In her book A Room of One's Own, which was written in 1929, Woolf critiques the patriarchal structure that limited women's intellectual and creative pursuit. She argues that for women to achieve true independence, they requires financially secure and personal space, both of which has been historically denied to them. Woolf's analysis of gender and capitalism highlights the economic barriers preventing women from attaining autonomy, making her work more influential for the later feminist critique of economic oppression. Simone de Beauvoir, the theorizing gender as a social construct. Another foundational figure of second wave feminism was Simone de Beauvoir. Her groundbreaking book, The Second Sex, which was written in the year 1949, examines how societal structure reinforced women's subjugation and challenges the prevailing notion that gender differences were purely biological. Instead, she argued that gender roles were imposed by society, famously asserting one is not born but rather becomes a woman. This statement underscores the idea that femininity was a constructive identity shaped by cultural and social expectations rather than inherent traits. The Simone de Beauvoir works laid the intellectual groundwork for later feminist critique of gender norms and systematic discrimination. Betty Friedan, challenging the domestic ideals. Betty Friedan was another key figure in the second wave feminism, particularly in the United States. Her book, The Feminine Mystic, which was written in the year 1963, exposed the widespread dissatisfaction among housewives who felt constrained by the traditional expectation of domestic life. Friedan argued that the idealized image of women as homemaker was restrictive and prevented them from pursuing fulfilling careers and personal growth. Her work resonated with many women who has been socialized to believe that their primary purpose was to care of their families, inspiring them to challenge societal expectation and seek greater opportunities in education and employment. Institutionalizing the feminism, the formation of NOW, N-O-W. One of the most significant development of second wave feminism was the institutionalization of feminism, feminist activism. Betty Friedan played a pivotal role in this process by founding the National Organization for Women, NOW, NOW, in the year 1966. NOW sought to advocate for women's rights in key areas such as employment, education, and legal equality. The organization was instrumental in pushing the legislative challenges, including policies to combat workplace discrimination, gender pay gaps, and sexual harassment. By establishing the formal advocacy group, second wave feminists were able to exert greater political pressure and drive tangible social change. Since the rise of second wave feminism, the movement has continued to evolve in response to challenge social and political context. In 1990s, saw the emergence of third wave feminism, which sought to address some of the limitations of earlier feminist movement. Third wave feminist emphasizes the importance of diversity and intersectionality, recognizing that women's experience varies based on factors such as race, class, sexuality, and cultural backgrounds. This wave of feminism rejected the notion of a universal female experience, instead of advocating for a more inclusive approach that acknowledges multiple forms of oppression. In the 21st century, feminism has continued to adapt and expand. The emergence of fourth wave feminism in 2010s has been characterized by digital activism, with social media platforms playing a crucial role in spreading awareness and mobilizing activism. This particular wave has focused on issues such as gender-based violence, workplace equality, and the representation of women in media and politics. Campaigns like Me Too and Time's Up have highlighted the persistence of sexual harassment and gender discrimination, reinforcing the need of continued advocacy and system change. So, if we see the different waves from the introduction of feminism to the first wave, to the second wave, to the third, to the fourth, we'll find that feminism has played an essential role in shaping social, political, and economic systems worldwide. From the early suffragist of first wave feminism to the radical challenges of second wave feminism and the subsequent evolution of feminist thought, the movement has continually adopted to address the changing needs of women. While significant progress has been made in securing women's rights, challenges remain, including wage disparities, gender-based violence, and systematic discrimination. The journey of feminism underscores the importance of sustained activism and awareness in the fights against gender equality. By continuing to challenge social norms and push for systematic reforms, feminists work always try to work towards a future in which women can fully participate in all aspects of society without facing discrimination or barriers. As history has shown, progress requires persistent efforts, and the feminist movement remains a vital force in advocating for a more equitable world. So, this is in brief about the introduction of feminism. So, in this particular video, we have discussed about the main introduction of feminism and feminist movement. We'll also have two videos for this unit. The second video will discuss about the origin and development of feminism, and the third video will discuss about the liberal and radical movements. Along with the radical and liberal movements, there will be criticisms also, and these particular things will be discussed in the third video. So this is brief for the first video. I think you have understood the basic concept of feminism, and so we'll meet in the second video. Thank you.